In my past life, I attended my cousin's wedding and grabbed several of the favor envelopes tossed by the bride, winning $10 million on an enclosed scratch-off ticket. Overjoyed, I told my mother that my father's illness could be cured, and we'd immediately take him to Chicago for surgery. But my mother snatched the lottery tickets with a cold expression and returned them to my cousin.
Your father and I are honest, hard-working people. The poor mustn't lose their dignity. We won't take advantage of others' charity.
Later, Dad passed away from his illness. She herself was severely injured in a car accident while guiding a lost, mentally disabled man home, leaving her permanently crippled. Relatives and friends who had always praised her kindness brought casseroles as condolences, but not a word was said about repaying favors or lending money. With nowhere else to turn, my mother set her sights on me. She tore up my college acceptance letter, then laced my meals with sleeping pills, scheming to force me to marry the neighbor's mentally disabled son so she could get a massive payout from his desperate parents.
These days, you can't throw a rock without hitting a college grad working at a drive-thru. What good would your degree do? Better to marry Billy and stay by your mother's side.
Tears glistened at the corners of her eyes, her expression one of utter despair.
Lily, don't blame your mother. Blame society instead. People aren't what they used to be. Without money, you can't get anywhere. I had no choice.
Unable to bear the humiliation and despair, I took my own life. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I won the lottery.
Really? Are you sure it was the scratch-off ticket in the favor envelope at Chloe's wedding that won?
Absolutely. The gas station owner confirmed it. Only Chloe's husband bought 200 tickets from that specific roll during that time slot.
The familiar female voice across the line sighed.
Oh, if only I'd put $2 in those envelopes at the wedding. Now look, it is the grand prize, $10 million. I wonder if anyone with a conscience will return it to Chloe.
My mom was cooking with her phone on speaker. She comforted my aunt while frowning and cursing that damned wedding guest. The one who took the winning ticket knew the hosts were frantic and still hadn't returned it. Lottery ticket? My pupils contracted sharply. The terror of being dragged into the room by Billy's heavy body hadn't faded. The memory of plunging from the 6th floor, the sound of my skull shattering on the concrete pavement, and the excruciating pain that washed over me like a tidal wave, leaving me trembling and gasping for breath. I gasped for air, instinctively clenching my right hand. I froze for a moment, lowering my gaze. The icy touch of the brass doorknob in my hand reminded me this wasn't a dream. I had truly been reborn. Reborn on the day my cousin got married and I won the lottery. That day, I thought I was unlucky. After returning home from the reception, I'd slipped on the ice and fallen flat on my back, lying in bed for ages before recovering. Little did I know that very day, among the hundreds of favor envelopes my cousin tossed to the crowd, I'd snatched the luckiest one. But what I never imagined was that the grand prize ticket hadn't even warmed my pocket. My mother dragged me to my cousin's house to return it. She declared sternly,
My family may be poor, but we have pride. We don't take others' valuables. Returning it to its rightful owner is only proper. Huh? Lily, didn't you grab several of those lottery envelopes at the wedding too? Quick, open yours and see if you won.
As she spoke, my mother suddenly had an idea. Click-clacking in her sensible shoes, she headed straight for my bedroom. Thinking back to my past life, my emotions churned. Only one thought remained in my mind. My mother absolutely must not find out that the winning ticket was in my possession. I immediately locked the door from the inside. I pulled out 7 or 8 small envelopes from my pocket and carefully selected the one that had won the jackpot in my past life. A frantic knock sounded outside the door. I grabbed my phone and checked the winning serial numbers for the scratch-off game, confirming they matched my memory. After cross-checking the numbers on the ticket multiple times, I carefully hid it inside an inconspicuous old paperback novel. Only after completing everything did I calmly open the door. My mother had nearly smashed the door down, her face a mix of displeasure and gravity. Rubbing my eyes, I grumbled.
Mom, what are you doing? Trying to tear the house apart?
Seeing my messy hair and puffy, sleepy eyes, she studied me for a moment. Her expression softened, though her tone remained disapproving.
Why lock yourself into sleep in broad daylight? You lazy teenager, I can't count on you for anything.
Her gaze then fell on the wedding mints and envelopes scattered across my bedroom desk. She asked tentatively,
Did you win the lottery?
I picked up a hairbrush and replied casually,
Haven't scratched them yet.
Then hurry up and look. Your Aunt Susan said one of the tickets from Chloe's wedding hit the jackpot. Your cousin and her husband are waiting outside the convenience store right now. If you won, take the ticket over quickly so your cousin doesn't have a panic attack.
In the past, I would have argued with her. Those were just cheap party favors given out for fun, whether anyone won or not had nothing to do with my cousin's family. But now, I had no desire to argue with her at all. I just turned around, grabbed the envelopes from the desk, and walked out the door.
Where are you going?
I waved the envelopes in my hand.
To the gas station to see if I won.
My mom had never bought lottery tickets before. She didn't know you could check results on a state lottery app, nor did she understand that a $10 million win couldn't be cashed at a small-town gas station like ours. She just reminded me that if I won, I absolutely had to return the ticket to my cousin.
You can't bite the hand that feeds you. We may be poor, but we're not desperate. Return what is rightfully hers. Don't do anything shameful.
At the convenience store entrance, sure enough, my cousin and her husband were standing there. They were still wearing their wedding attire. My cousin's red silk reception dress paired with a faux fur shawl made her stand out like a sore thumb in the parking lot. Spotting an acquaintance who'd attended their wedding, she rushed over and snatched the scratch off from their hands to check. Seeing me approach, my cousin's eyes lit up. She grabbed my hand swiftly and asked,
Lily, what are you doing here? Did you win?
Her eyes were tense and urgent, her acrylic nails digging painfully into my wrist. I gently pulled my hand away and nodded earnestly.
Yep, I won. Here to claim my prize.
Besides the grand prize, one of my other tickets was a minor winner, $100. Her eyes sparkled as she snatched all my envelopes. She pulled them out one by one, only to find the $100 winner. Her face fell with disappointment, and she snapped angrily.
This is the prize you were talking about.
I beamed.
Yep, $100.
Right in front of them, I pulled out that ticket, tossing aside the envelopes and the losing scratch-offs into the trash can. Feigning ignorance, I asked.
What are you guys doing here?
My cousin, her face still downcast, gave me a perfunctory reply before heading off to accost other acquaintances. Clutching the crisp $100 bill, my palm slightly damp, I considered this the first hurdle cleared. My cousin wouldn't suspect me anytime soon. On the way home, I replayed the mistakes of my past life in my mind while plotting to head to Chicago soon to claim the prize.
Lily, look what I bought for you.
A sudden tap on my shoulder made me jump. Turning, I saw my father's kind, sallow face smiling warmly. Noticing my startled reaction, he patted my shoulder reassuringly. His thin lips, still smiling, lacked color. Following his gaze, I saw a pink hardshell suitcase. The color was soft, the metal finish gleaming, clearly not cheap. But he had been diagnosed with an abdominal tumor nearly a month ago. We hadn't even scraped together half the money for his deductible yet. Seeing the warmth in his eyes, my vision instantly blurred with tears. My cousin's hesitant voice from my past life echoed in my ears.
Auntie, but Uncle Arthur needs money for his treatment. You gave me back that lottery ticket.
My mother quickly waved her off.
Everyone has their own fate. Your uncle and I are reasonable people. We wouldn't take advantage of you younger generation just because we're facing a rough patch.
My cousin hurriedly tucked the lottery ticket into her designer purse, repeatedly thanking my mother for her incredible kindness. She even said my mother was a saint, and if our family ever faced difficulties, we should definitely ask her for help. But when my father's illness worsened and we went to borrow money from her, her eyes filled with pity, her expression troubled.
Uncle, it is not that I don't want to lend you the money. Please don't blame me for being blunt, but you know your family's financial situation. My aunt doesn't earn much, and Lily is about to start college. Lending you money would be like throwing good money after bad.
That day, I saw this man strong his entire life secretly wipe away tears for the first time. He entered the room, eyes red, and told my mother and me.
We're not treating it anymore.
I lowered my head, a single tear falling. My father froze, unsure what to do, just standing there awkwardly rubbing his hands. He explained,
Dad didn't waste money. Dad still has money for his copays.
My heart clenched even tighter, and I resolved to take him to Chicago for treatment as soon as possible. I swallowed my tears and took the suitcase from his hands. This time, I didn't scold him for wasting money. Instead, I slipped my arm through his and said,
Dad, let's go home.
Seeing how gently I handled the suitcase, my dad smiled knowingly too. Back home, Mom frowned at the suitcase in my hands.
What a waste of money.
Seriously.
Last time we
The
helped your
pink
Aunt Susan move,
suitcase.
didn't she give me Chloe's old black duffel bag from college?
Right
It is
here.
a bit worn, but not
We
torn.
discussed
I could just
this.
replace
I
the
don't
zipper
want
and
it
use it.
sitting
Why
in the
go out and
living
buy a
room.
brand new suitcase?
My dad grinned sheepishly.
It wasn't expensive, just a little over $100. I notice young people these days all use these spinner
Oh my
wheels
God,
for
Gap
long
night.
trips. The cashier said it'll last for years.
My mom winced at the thought, but since the suitcase was already home, she could only glare at us fiercely. Despite the cold reception, Dad cheerfully joined Mom in the kitchen to help make dinner. At dinner, I picked up a piece of toast and casually remarked,
Dad, could you drive me to campus tomorrow? It is my first time going off to college. Everyone else has parents helping them set up their dorms. With the economy slowing down and all those human trafficking rings you see on the news, it is dangerous for a young girl like me to travel out of state alone.
My dad thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement.
All right, you are right, kid. The university is a long drive to the city. You are in unfamiliar territory. You need a parent to go with you.
My mother sipped her coffee and flicked my scrambled eggs away with her fork.
How old are you now? Can't you be independent?
She scolded. She smacked her lips.
Why so sudden you are leaving tomorrow? Isn't there still over 2 weeks before classes start?
My heart tightened. In my previous life, I had left 2 weeks later. But my father's illness couldn't wait. If it dragged on, not even 10 million could cure him. I set down my plate, pulled out my phone, and held an email screen before her, forcing my voice to sound as normal and calm as possible.
Classes start in 2 weeks, but we have to go to freshman orientation early. It is a 2-week boot camp. The admissions office emailed us last week, but I only saw it today.
I watched my mother's expression without betraying any emotion, afraid she might suspect something. In my previous life, because my father's health was poor, I wanted to spend more time with him and requested a late move-in. Due to the special circumstances, my academic advisor approved it. My mother looked at the screen for a moment, but didn't ask any further questions.
I know you're
I secretly
leaving soon,
breathed
but
a
we need
sigh
to
of
talk
relief.
about what
But
I
the
just
next
saw on
moment,
here.
she put down her fork and said again,
Your father isn't well.
Look at
Why
me
don't
when
I
I'm
take you?
talking
I
to
haven't
you.
been to Chicago in
I'm the
years.
one carrying
she
the
shot
weight
my
around
dad
here.
a disapproving look and grumbled.
It
This
is
is
all my
exactly what
fault
I
for
was
having
afraid
such
of.
poor judgment.
We can't
I
keep
married a
going on
good
like
for
this.
nothing husband,
I
and
regret
now I am
ever
stuck with this
suggesting it.
miserable life.
Suddenly called out, my dad looked apologetic yet helpless. He could only lower his head silently and shovel food into his mouth. I
you
kept
should
a
have this
smile on
piece.
my
It's
face while my
perfect.
mind raced.
Oh,
After
thank
watching
you,
my mom
sweetie.
for a moment, I picked
Are
up
you
a
sure
piece
you
of
don't want
bacon
it?
and placed it on her plate.
Mom, I'd love for you to take me, but
told you
Mrs.
I
Miller's
have to
son,
go.
Billy, seems to be hanging around
They
the
are
auto parts
waiting for
plant
me
where you work
just
the
down the
registers
street.
lately. He doesn't know
can't
his
stay
way
here
home. I'd hate
anymore.
for him to wander into traffic.
A few days prior, a widow who worked at the plant
Wow,
mistook
thanks.
the intellectually disabled young man for a homeless person on her
this is
way to work
amazing.
and gave him a donut. Ever since
look,
that
right
day,
there.
Billy
It's
had been
happening, just
telling
like I said it
everyone he
would.
met that the
Let
widow
go
was
of
his
me.
girlfriend, constantly demanding to go to the factory to find her. His parents had driven him back and forth a few times before growing weary, eventually letting him wander on his own. But he didn't know the way. On one trip home, he got lost again. It was my mom who stayed up all night with a flashlight to find him. Since then, she'd willingly taken on this responsibility. Whenever Billy got the urge to go find his so-called girlfriend, she picked him up and dropped him off, rain or shine. Not even my dad's funeral day was an exception. Only by the time she returned, my dad had already been buried. At his grave, she beat her chest in grief, blaming him for not waiting for her return to see him one last time. My mother paused mid-bite, her eyes drifting instinctively to the fresh vegetables and baked goods Mrs. Miller had delivered yesterday. She recalled how, just 2 days prior, Mrs. Miller had been bragging to the church ladies at the grocery store about how kind and good-hearted my mother was. A faint smile touched her lips as she sighed.
Well, I suppose so. If that poor boy really ran off again, Mrs. Miller would be beside herself with worry. Everyone in the neighborhood knows I am the one looking after him now. He just wandered off once a few days ago. If I were to leave at a time like this, what would people say about me?
She waved her hand with an air of resignation.
All right. Let your dad take you then. I am just destined for a life of running errands for everyone else.
The next morning, Dad and I dragged our luggage to the Greyhound stop. The November air carried a biting chill, yet as I watched the passing vehicles, my palms grew slightly sweaty. My heart raced with both anxiety and anticipation. If I could just get through today, cash the ticket at the state lottery headquarters, and get Dad his surgery, his ill illness would heal. Our family would never repeat the fate of the past life. But before the bus arrived, two familiar figures approached me directly. It was my cousin Chloe and Aunt Susan. From afar, I saw smiles on their faces, yet their steps were hurried and quick, almost a jog. My heart sank, and I unconsciously tightened my grip on the suitcase handle.
Lily, leaving so early.
My aunt's face still bore a composed smile, yet her gaze seemed glued to my luggage. My heart tightened slightly, but I forced myself to stay calm.
Yes, it takes hours to get from home to campus. I want to arrive before dark, so I need to take the early bus. Chloe, you are up so early today. Where are you and Aunt Susan going?
I lowered my eyes and noticed my cousin's dark circles. She must have slept poorly last night and looked exhausted. She seemed dazed, as if not listening to us. Her face flushed with urgency as she grabbed my suitcase and pulled it toward her.
Nowhere. We heard you are heading off to college today, so we came to see you off.
I clutched my suitcase tightly.
It is fine, Chloe. I'll just wait for the bus here.
Seeing my reluctance, my cousin dropped the pretense. Her tone shifted abruptly, brimming with angry accusation.
You went to the gas station last night to check your tickets. I shouldn't have suspected you, but Aunt Susan said you are leaving today. You didn't do something shady, did you? Stealing my lottery ticket and running away.
My heart pounded wildly, but I forced a cold smile.
Chloe, come on. I didn't set the university's move-in date. You can call the admissions office and check if freshman orientation starts tomorrow.
Seeing my certainty, my cousin was momentarily speechless. Yet she still clutched my luggage handle tightly, afraid that if she let go, her 10 million would vanish. 10 million was enough to shatter any ordinary person's politeness and composure. She steeled her resolve and declared defiantly,
"If you've got nothing to hide, then you shouldn't mind me searching."
With that, she yanked my suitcase from me, shoved it to the concrete, and ripped open the zipper to search inside. Her fingers frantically yet meticulously checked every pocket of my clothes, even rummaging through the suitcase's hidden mesh compartments 3 times over. My neatly folded clothes lay in disarray. A faded beige undergarment, washed until the elastic was shot, fell loosely to the pavement, glaringly out of place. 2 tall teenagers passing by casually glanced at my underwear and chuckled teasingly.
Well, who knew we'd be getting a free TSA pat down on Main Street?
I was so angry I laughed, rushing forward to stop them. But my mom suddenly appeared, pushing me back. She slapped my shoulder hard and frowned.
Enough. I asked your aunt to search you. Chloe spent all day yesterday looking for that lottery winner who is hiding like a coward. You are leaving today if word gets out. Won't you be under suspicion too? To prove your innocence, I called your aunt and cousin to check. We live with integrity, avoiding any grounds for suspicion. It is for your own good.
My mother nodded, signaling my cousin to continue searching. My aunt kept apologizing to me, occasionally urging me to understand my cousin's impulsiveness. As she spoke, her body unconsciously shifted 2 steps toward the center, positioning herself between my cousin and me. The clothes in my suitcase soon scattered across the sidewalk. My cousin gradually became possessed. Her eyes were bloodshot as she tossed the rummaged clothes carelessly onto the ground, muttering to herself.
How could it be gone? Where is it? Give me back my lottery ticket.
Her voice was dry and hoarse, as if she'd repeated those words countless times to someone. She emptied and searched through every single item in my suitcase, yet still couldn't find the lottery ticket she was so obsessed with. Yet she refused to give up. She knelt on the concrete for a moment, her face pale from sheer agitation. Suddenly, her gaze fell on the oversized winter coat I was wearing. My cousin sprang to her feet and lunged toward me.
You must have hidden it on you, you thief. If you took it, give it back now.
She yanked my clothes violently, her other hand rummaging frantically through my pockets.
What are you doing? I said I didn't take your stuff. I didn't.
A wave of humiliation washed over me, and I immediately started wrestling with my cousin. My mom and aunt tried to reason with us while pulling us apart. In reality, they both instinctively grabbed my arms and shoulders, pinning me in place so I couldn't fight back. I could only let my cousin frantically search me. In the chaos, she tore the collar of my shirt, exposing my bare shoulder to the freezing air.
Enough.
Seeing me bullied like this, my dad couldn't care less about keeping the peace anymore. He lunged forward to pull my aunt and mother apart, only to be violently shoved aside by my aunt. Already frail from illness, my father stumbled backward. My aunt's force was so great she nearly pulled me down too. He staggered, and the medicine in his small pharmacy bag spilled onto the pavement. The paper bag tore open, scattering prescription boxes and orange pill bottles everywhere. Even the unfinished bottle of painkillers popped its childproof cap, spilling several white pills onto the damp slush.
Oh my God, what are you doing? I got these from the county hospital. Just the gas money for one round trip cost over $40.
My father's face turned pale as he crouched down to gather the pills. Even those lying in the dirty slush he picked up, wiped on his jeans, and carefully returned to the bottle. Watching his pitiful figure, my throat tightened. Everyone present froze at the sight. I shoved my cousin aside, crouched down, gathered the pill bottles for my father, and shoved them into his coat pockets.
Take your medicine. You can bully me, but you can't treat my dad like trash.
I turned, my eyes filled with despair and rage at being betrayed by my own blood. My fingernails dug into my palms as I walked toward my cousin and the others, stripping off my winter coat and sweater one by one. Standing there shivering in just my undershirt, I stared coldly at my cousin.
Chloe, are you satisfied now? If I won $10 million, would I care about that $100 I claimed at the gas station? I said I didn't take it, so I didn't. If you don't believe me, let's go down to the police precinct right now.
Chloe looked into my eyes, revealing an emotion other than arrogance for the first time. Her expression stiffened slightly, as if she felt a hint of fear. She instinctively looked away, her eyes darting around the bus stop.
Fine, I didn't take it. I never said it was you, and I never told you to strip.
She snapped. Faced with the pointed stares from the gathering crowd, my cousin seemed to regain some composure. She moved closer to her mother and whispered something low.
You are right. I overreacted. It probably wasn't her who would care about $100 after winning 10 million. They'd have booked a flight to the lottery headquarters overnight.
Hearing this, my aunt glanced around. Her previously dazed expression instantly turned to a frown. She turned to me reproachfully.
Lily, you two were family. Why can't we talk things out calmly? Why get so angry? It is embarrassing with all these people watching us.
My mother realized what she'd said and felt awkward too. It implied she hadn't raised her daughter properly. She scowled and hurried toward me. But just then, the silver Greyhound bus pulled up to the curb. Tears streaming down my face. I pulled my sweater back on, shoved the clothes on the ground haphazardly into my suitcase, and zipped it shut. Grabbing my suitcase, I shoved my mother aside as she tried to block my path and lecture me. Before stepping onto the bus, I turned and shot my mother a piercingly cold stare. I spat out.
Are you only satisfied when your relatives bully me and dad into an early grave?
My mother's face instantly drained of color. She stood frozen in place, forgetting even to wave goodbye to me and Dad. By the time we reached the university, it was already 9 in the evening. Some upperclassmen were still moving about near the student union. I booked a double bedroom at a Marriott near campus for Dad to stay in until move-in tomorrow. Dad fretted over the cost, insisting he'd check out first thing tomorrow morning to save on the daily rate. I patiently explained the room was booked until noon tomorrow. They charged the full rate even if he left at dawn. Only then did he relent, agreeing to have dinner with me before heading back. That night, while organizing Dad's medications on the nightstand, I held an unopened bottle of over-the-counter vitamins in my hand. If someone looked closely, they might notice a faint trace of clear tape sealing the cap. I peeled back the seal, removed the cotton wad inside, and slipped the winning lottery ticket hidden beneath it into my pocket. Unlike our quiet town of Oakhaven, Chicago bustled with crowds, traffic flowing like a river. Even late at night, the city glowed with a kaleidoscope of neon lights, its bustling, prosperous scene offering a comforting sense of security. Lying on the crisp white hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, it all felt like a dream. And today, I had finally ended this nightmare. We would never repeat the mistakes of our past lives. The only headache left was how to convince Dad to get treatment. Should I just tell him I won the lottery, that I'd been reborn? Both options seemed absurd. Would he believe me? And if I told him, could I keep it from Mom? Lost in thought, I drifted off to sleep. Freshman orientation lasted 3 days. So early the next morning, I left the hotel and headed straight to the state lottery headquarters to claim my prize. The prize was $10 million. After deducting federal and state taxes, roughly $6.5 million remained. But I opted for the lump sum, which brought it to around $8 million clear. Clutching the certified bank draft holding $8 million in my hand, it felt like crushing the shitty fate of my past life. I was so moved I nearly wept with joy. Once you have money, lying becomes effortless. By then, my father, who had originally planned to catch the bus home today, had been tricked into coming to Northwestern Memorial Hospital. After the CT scan, Dr. Evans studied the images on his tablet for a moment. his brow furrowing slightly. He spoke earnestly.
This cystic mass is
what we
quite
are
large,
looking at
nearly
in
a
terms
third
of
of your
size,
entire
Arthur.
kidney. We can't
It's
rule out malignancy.
roughly
I recommend
3
immediate
centimeters.
hospitalization for surgical removal.
Based on
Perhaps
the
having
results,
seen
everything
countless
looks very
patients,
stable.
he noticed
We'll
my
continue
father's
the current
hesitation
treatment
and
plan.
added,
Even if it is benign, its size alone meets the criteria for surgery.
My father's hand paused slightly, the gravity of the situation sinking in. After a moment of silence, he forced a light tone.
Thank you, doctor. We'll head home to figure things out.
For surgery,
I addressed the doctor earnestly.
Dr. Evans, please arrange immediate surgery for my father.
Dr. Evans looked up to confirm with me, then began
All right, Lily,
typing
I'm
into
just
my father's
documenting that
electronic
prescription
medical
now.
record while
You should
addressing
start
us.
feeling-
Proceed to the admissions desk on the
Take
first
this
floor
down the
to
hall
provide
to
your
the
insurance
pharmacy on
info,
the
pay
left.
the deposit, and complete the
Okay,
admission
thank
process.
you.
We'll schedule preoperative tests tomorrow and notify you of the surgery time.
In the
Can't stay
hallway,
here,
my
Lily.
father
Please,
pulled me
just go
aside,
home.
his face heavy with worry.
Lily, let's go home.
We'll call
How
you.
could Dad afford the out-of-pocket
exhausted.
costs for this surgery?
I have it.
Hearing this, my father froze, his eyes welling up. He pleaded anxiously.
Don't do something so foolish. That is your student loan and
Everything is
tuition money.
arranged.
You can't squander it like this.
Seeing
Stay
my
safe out
resolute
there, Lily.
determination to pay for him.
Call
My
me when
father,
you get
though
in,
recently
all right?
struck by his diagnosis,
I wish you
still
didn't have to
gently and
go.
patiently tried to dissuade me. He composed himself, forcing a smile at me. His sallow, slightly swollen face couldn't hide the tenderness between his brows.
Dad
See?
will be fine. I just need to
Everything
take
is
my
fine.
medicine. And even if it
Just
is
a little
cancer,
checkup.
look at some people,
Nothing
they
to
live for
worry
many
about,
more years. I've got a
sweetheart.
positive outlook. Who knows? I might even live to be 100.
Seeing his forced, light-hearted smile,
Are
a
you sure,
wave of
Lily?
bitterness washed over
I don't
me.
know if I
I
can.
swallowed
I am
hard
sure.
and
I'm right here
patiently
with you.
explained to him.
Dad, do you remember Sarah?
You mean your childhood friend whose family moved to California a few years back?
I nodded. 5 years ago, her parents took her to the West Coast. They bought hundreds of acres to grow organic avocados, and it has been incredibly successful. Now they've expanded hundreds of times over, leasing multiple estates for other ventures. She has become a renowned avocado tycoon out there.
I
It's gonna
clasped
be
Dad's
okay,
hand, which
Arthur.
held a white pharmacy
just
bag,
need to
and
follow
patted
the
it.
Her family's
doctor's
become incredibly
instructions
wealthy now.
exactly.
You know, Sarah and I weren't
I'm right
just
here with
childhood
you.
friends. I saved her life when she fell into that frozen creek when we were kids. Now that our
found
family
the
is facing hardship,
directions
I
to
called
the
her,
hotel
explained our
right
situation,
here.
and
It's
asked
only
for a
10
loan. She has
minutes
tens of
away.
thousands in her checking
Only
account just for
10
fun.
minutes.
So she wired me $100,000. She said, once you are better, I should bring you to California to visit.
My dad
could you
froze for a
lie to
moment,
me
still
like
finding it
that?
hard to believe.
Really?
Of course it is true. Otherwise, how do you think I could afford your surgery
tell me
deposit on my
that.
freshman financial aid alone?
I'm standing
Besides, do
right
you think
here
this
with my
massive hospital would let us run up a
bags
tab without proof of funds?
My dad finally relaxed his frown, his resistance softening. After I paid the bill at the cashier's window, he finally believed my story. In the inpatient ward, watching patients being wheeled back and forth, my dad couldn't hold back any longer. His eyes welled up. If given a chance, who
promise you,
wouldn't want to
Lily,
live? Wiping away
I
his
am
tears,
going
he
to
said to me,
fight.
Sweetheart, once Dad gets better,
I will
I'll go
be
earn money
here
lots
for
and
you no
lots of
matter
money to
what.
repay Sarah, to thank her for saving my life.
Dad's surgery was a success. The chief of oncology personally performed the operation, not only successfully removing the cyst, but also preserving Dad's kidney. This procedure was extremely complex. In our rural county hospital, such a case would likely have resulted in the kidney being removed entirely. The greater opportunities and more professional, rigorous medical care in big cities reaffirmed my resolve to leave our small town and put down roots in Chicago. I knew
Welcome
wealth,
to your new
like
home, Miss
poverty, was
Carter.
rarely something one could
Thank you
hide
so
without
much. It's
hesitation.
beautiful.
I contacted a real estate agent and bought a luxury condo in the Loop. 1,400 square feet, 3 bedrooms and a living room, with an expansive view of the skyline, paid in full for over $2.3 million. It was also close to the hospital, convenient for Dad's follow-up checkups and recovery. Knowing I lacked investment acumen, I abandoned plans to day trade stocks or buy crypto. Stepping out of the Chase Bank VIP room, I held 3 distinct debit cards in my hand. One linked to an account holding $2 million in a high-yield CD. Another contained $1 million in a checking account for my father's ongoing treatment, tuition, and living expenses. From the remaining funds, I immediately wired $500,000 to Sarah. Her family did indeed sell organic produce, but they hadn't struck it rich. On the contrary, they had suffered significant losses last year due to droughts, and her parents were considering considering foreclosing on their California farm to return to the Midwest. But I knew that a year later, a top Hollywood celebrity would launch a massive viral lifestyle brand, heavily promoting farm-to-table eating. Among the superfoods she strongly recommended were California-grown avocados from boutique farms, naturally grown with exceptional flavor. These avocados quickly became an internet sensation, selling out at premium prices at Whole Foods nationwide. Some farmers achieved remarkable success through this trend. Yet this year, many growers can no longer keep up with their mortgages. Though Sarah and I trust each other implicitly, I'll only wire $500,000 for now to help her family weather the storm. After the holidays, I'll bring a corporate lawyer to draft formal terms for an equity investment to expand their acreage. Today was the day to pick up my dad from the hospital. Before leaving, I texted Maria, the home health aide I'd hired, to pack up my dad's things and wait for me. After completing the discharge paperwork, I cheerfully went to his room. Pushing open the heavy wooden door, the smile on my lips froze instantly at the sight of 2 extra people in the room. My mother and Aunt Susan stood before my father's bed like 2 prison guards. The room reeked of clinical bleach, the smell thick enough to suffocate. My father lay half reclined in the adjustable bed. Whatever my aunt and mother had said to him, his complexion, which had regained some color these past days, was now paler than the sterile sheets beneath him. His lips were tightly pressed together, his eyes filled with indescribable struggle and pain.
Lily, I finally caught you.
Before I could react, someone shoved me hard from behind, sending me stumbling into the room. I turned to see my cousin Chloe blocking the doorway. Her face twisted with fury, her eyes like poisoned daggers as she pointed at me without mercy.
We spent the whole day searching this huge hospital for you. Your family is dead broke. Where did you get the money for your father's surgery? How could you even afford this VIP private room? You must have stolen my lottery ticket. Where is that 10 million? Spit it out right now.
My aunt turned at the commotion, her eyes widening with disgust when she saw me.
Nothing but lies. You claimed your father broke his leg slipping on the ice and couldn't return home. Lily, your parents are such honest people. How did they raise such a scheming sociopath? You planned this all along, bringing your father to Chicago to secretly blow our family's money.
Her lips curled into a cold, mocking smile. If it weren't for our Chloe being so sharp spotting the Northwestern Memorial logo behind your mom during that FaceTime call with your dad, we almost fell for your scam. Northwestern is world-class. If you hadn't embezzled our family's money, how could your dad possibly afford out-of-network treatment there? Her tone abruptly hardened, laced with a thin veneer of sanctimonious threat.
Out of family loyalty, considering your youth and future, hand over every penny of that lottery money, principal, and interest, and we'll let this slide. Otherwise, don't blame us for calling the police for grand larceny. $10 million, that is a federal crime. You'll be locked up for life.
Seeing my expression remain impassive, devoid of the shame they expected, I merely gave them a cold stare. My aunt grew even more restless, nudging my mother and pleading.
Brenda, say something.
Only then did my mother snap out of her fury over my keeping dad's surgery from her. She lunged forward and yanked me by the arm. Like a righteous crusader, she raised her voice to interrogate me.
Answer me, you ungrateful brat. Why did you hide something as huge as your father's surgery from me? Did you steal Chloe's $10 million ticket?
As she spoke, she suddenly slapped herself across the face and wailed.
Oh my lord, what sin have I committed to raise you so greedy? I, Brenda Carter, have lived an honest and upright life. How will the church congregation look at me now?
In the past, seeing her like this would have made me cry and resist while secretly giving in. But now, looking at that face that bore a striking resemblance to mine, I felt nothing but disgust. I instinctively turned my head and rolled my eyes. My mother froze at the sight, then grew even angrier. I ignored them completely, bending down to help my father sit up.
Dad, let's go.
Seeing my unyielding resolve, I calmly gathered my father's belongings from the closet and prepared to leave the hospital. My mother grew even more frantic. She turned her vitriol toward my father, who had just swung his legs over the bed. Grasping his elbow with a pained expression, she pleaded.
Arthur, say something. Tell Lily to wire the prize money to Chloe right now. They're kind-hearted. They'll forgive her. We can still be family. As for the rest of the money she spent, we'll take out a second mortgage and pay it back with interest.
Her voice grew increasingly frantic, culminating in a furious word-by-word shout.
Arthur Carter, you can't let your cowardice enable your daughter to commit a felony.
At her words, my father's already pallid face drained further, turning as white as a sheet. The light in his eyes visibly dimmed, his gaze filled with profound sorrow, and in an instant, Helplessness, shame, self-reproach, and guilt flashed through his expression. This honest, meek, and kind Midwestern man had been steamrolled by my mother his entire life. Tongue-tied, he couldn't counter her forceful arguments, nor could he blame me for the lottery. Now, this frail patient stood there, silent and helpless like an abandoned child. I furrowed my brow, my gaze hardening as I shoved my mother aside.
Get out of the way.
Startled, my cousin rushed forward to intervene. Her voice shrieked.
Lily isn't leaving this room until she writes me a check.
My aunt swiftly slammed the hospital door shut, seeing them ready for a physical fight. My father instinctively stepped in front of me. Though frail and unsteady in his hospital gown, he straightened his chest, trying to look fierce and formidable. I steadied him. Before my cousin could lunge at me, I raised my arm and brought it down hard, slapping her across the face. Caught off guard, she staggered and nearly lost her balance. She clutched her rapidly swelling cheek, 5 fingerprints clearly visible. She turned to stare at me, her expression filled with shock. I had long since come to terms with it. Endless tolerance never earns respect or understanding. It only emboldens the entitled and the wicked. I wouldn't tolerate it anymore. Facing the 3 harsh women in the room who looked as if they'd seen a ghost, I pulled out my iPhone expressionlessly and shoved the screen in front of Chloe's face. You wanted to call the cops. I already dialed 911 for you. So, you grabbed the wedding favor envelope containing the scratch-off ticket. What was the prize amount? In the precinct interrogation room, one officer typed notes on a laptop while an older detective, hands clasped, asked directly. Yes, roughly 8 million after taxes. I answered calmly. At that, my aunt shot up, pointing at me and yelling.
Trash, you shameless thief. You think you can just flip your tongue and swallow millions of my family's money. Let me tell you, lying to a detective is perjury. You better hand over the money you stole.
My cousin hurriedly pulled her back, immediately accepting the tax payment as fact. She turned to the detective and urgently explained.
Detective, my husband bought that lottery ticket with his own debit card. Even after taxes, the remainder belongs to us. Out of family consideration, I won't press charges for emotional distress. I'll also drop the claim for her father's hospital bills, but only if Lily Wire transfers my money back to my Chase account by tomorrow morning.
The detective glanced up at her, his expression complex, his tone calm yet firm.
According to state lottery regulations, scratch-off tickets are bearer instruments. Whoever holds the ticket and completes the redemption process at the lottery office is entitled to the prize. The state doesn't verify who originally bought it at the gas station.
My cousin frowned warily.
What do you mean?
The favor envelopes tossed at your wedding reception were voluntary gifts. The moment they were thrown into the crowd, ownership of the contents transferred to whoever caught them.
Detective Mitchell spread his hands, his words final.
Simply put, the lottery tickets distributed at the wedding are no different from tossing a bouquet. Legally, that winning ticket belongs entirely to Miss Carter.
Impossible.
That is insane.
At this, my cousin and aunt turned pale instantly, protesting in unison. My cousin looked utterly incredulous, her lips trembling as she clung to her last hope.
Detective, you must be mistaken. It shouldn't work like this.
The detective's tone grew slightly stern.
Whether it is fair or not isn't for you or me to decide. It is what the law stipulates with no exceptions.
He added sharply.
If you persist in pursuing this as grand theft, you'll be charged with filing a false police report and face legal consequences yourselves.
Hearing this, my cousin's face turned from pale to ashen. She clutched her mother's hand tightly. Her eyes were red-rimmed with despair, her entire body drained of strength. My aunt, heartbroken for her daughter yet powerless to help, turned to my mother as their last hope, her eyes brimming with tears. Seeing my aunt's despairing, tearful expression, my mother spoke urgently.
While the law may state this, the law is rigid, but people are not. Detective, the law may be unforgiving, but basic human decency demands justice. Please uphold what is right and make Lily return this money to her cousin. Don't let greed destroy our family bonds.
The detective didn't respond, merely closing his file folder.
Ownership is clear. If civil disputes arise later, you can hire a lawyer and sue in civil court. We're done here.
Leaving the precinct, my father, physically drained, could barely stand. The older detective reached out to steady him. Before parting, he glanced at my mother, who was still urging me to write a check, his expression complex. Turning back, he patted my father's shoulder gently with concern.
Stay strong, sir. Take good care of yourself.
My aunt and cousin walked out of the station in a daze, looking more devastated than my sick father. They collapsed onto a concrete bench outside, their faces ashen. My aunt kept murmuring to herself.
How dare they? This isn't fair.
I supported my father and hailed an Uber without looking back, leaving my mother hesitating between us and my aunt. By the time she realized the SUV had already pulled into traffic, she ran a few steps after it. Through the tinted rearview mirror, I coldly watched her cursing figure grow smaller and smaller. In my previous life, I never had a real mother. I brought my father to the new downtown condo I'd purchased. Though the staged furniture was slightly minimalist, it was clean and modern. After ordering takeout, my father lay in the guest bedroom, his complexion gradually regaining some color. The doctor said his condition required ongoing stabilization and rest with frequent follow-up appointments. I suggested he stay here in Chicago until his condition stabilized before considering returning to Ohio. Given his current state, staying with my mother would surely put him in an early grave. Yet my father sat silently on the edge of the mattress, watching my busy figure unpacking for so long that my hopeful anticipation gradually turned into a bitter, stinging resentment that rose in my chest. Suppressing my rising irritation, I dropped the folded towels in my hands, met his eyes directly, and asked coldly.
So you think I am wrong too, don't you?
His gaze on my face faltered abruptly. After a moment, he pursed his lips and spoke, but he didn't answer my question directly. Instead, he began telling me a story.
Lily, when I was in the recovery ward, there was a young man in the next bed. He was tall and thin, also a college student. He loved to joke around and play video games, but even at his young age, he had kidney stones. One day, his parents and grandparents came to the hospital to celebrate his birthday. The curtained area next to me was filled with laughter and joy. Before going into surgery, he smiled and brought me a slice of cake. It was small from some fancy downtown bakery, probably cost $50. He said since he couldn't eat anything before his procedure, eating his birthday cake would give me his luck. My surgery would surely go as smoothly as his little stone removal.
I looked puzzled, not quite following. Then Dad's expression softened, like melting winter snow, tinged with a faint, warm smile.
I thought to myself then, these city kids are so loved and protected.
He lifted his eyes to meet mine, a hint of melancholy and self-reproach flickering there.
But my daughter is only 19. Last year, she was still in high school, the age when she should be cherished and carefree. Yet her parents failed to be her safety net. Instead, you've been the one protecting Dad all along.
His Adam's apple bobbed as he spoke, his voice now unwaveringly firm.
If the police say this lottery ticket is yours, then this money is yours. We didn't steal or rob anyone. Why shouldn't we enjoy this good life?
Dad recovered remarkably well. He took slow walks downstairs every day to play chess in Millennium Park, gaining 5 pounds in less than 2 months. During this time, aside from my mother's frequent calls and texts, starting with pleas to return the money to my cousin, then escalating to lengthy, unhinged voicemails cursing me as an ungrateful, heartless bitch, no one else disturbed our peaceful life. Though I knew my cousin wouldn't let it go, I still underestimated that family's sheer audacity. One day after my intro to political science class, I was walking across the quad to the dining hall with my textbooks in hand alongside some classmates. My dorm's resident advisor suddenly caught up from behind, pulling me aside with a complicated, awkward expression.
Lily, the dean of students wants you to go to the administration building. He said, your parents are looking for you.
Parents? There is a post-op checkup today. It can't be my dad. I froze, my heart skipping a beat as anxiety washed over me. The Raw scratched his head and lowered his voice.
He said, it is your mom. She brought 2 other women with her. They've been crying in the office, saying you embezzled their family's life savings and didn't care if your own relatives died. Dean Thompson is losing his patience.
A surge of unnamed fury shot through me, my knuckles turning white as I gripped my textbook. How could someone be so shameless? I pushed open the heavy oak door to find my mother sitting on the leather sofa, wiping away tears with a tissue, while my aunt chattered incessantly to Dean Thompson. My cousin spotted me enter, immediately sneered coldly, crossed her arms, and stared at me defiantly as if to say, this is your comeuppance. Dean Thompson sat behind his mahogany desk, his frown deepening by the second. Noticing my arrival, he removed his reading glasses, his voice tinged with weary impatience.
Miss Carter, your family is reporting that you've embezzled substantial assets from relatives, neglected your legal and moral obligations, abandoned your mother, developed a severe gambling habit at such a young age, borrowed heavily from your aunt's family, and then shifted the financial burden onto your mother. Is this correct?
Absurd. Hearing this, I was so furious I laughed. I knew it. How had they managed to keep their composure for this long? They'd forged various promissory notes during this period, falsely claiming my family owed my cousin money, property, and even the deed to a house. I scanned the contracts. The legal jargon was meticulously crafted, complete with notary stamps and forged signatures. They looked utterly genuine. The top one boldly stated, promissory note, borrowed $500,000 in cash from Chloe Davis' cousin for Arthur Carter's father medical expenses to be repaid in full within 1 calendar year. Even the date matched the timing of my father's hospital admission. Another read, collateral agreement, transfer of deed for 1 residential property under Chloe Davis's name to secure Lily Carter's university tuition. Utter nonsense. My cousin's family only had 1 rundown split level in our Ohio hometown. How could they possibly own luxury real estate in downtown Chicago? It was impressive they tracked down my new condo's address through public records so quickly. They must be seething with rage, driven to desperate measures. Dean Thompson's eyes flashed with suspicion, clearly shocked that an honor student like me who never skipped a single lecture could be so callous, even dabbling in illicit gambling. My cousin stepped forward, deliberately raising her voice so the administrative assistants passing outside the open door could hear.
Dean Thompson, even if you don't believe me, would her own mother file a false report against her?
Her tone softened as she adopted a look of utter helplessness. Her acting skills worthy of an Oscar.
We had no choice but to come to the university seeking justice. Lily is morally bankrupt, only concerned with her own lavish lifestyle. She doesn't even acknowledge her own mother and has blown our savings at the casinos. If I take this story to the local news stations, imagine the damage to your university's prestige and next year's donor contributions. If you don't want her to tarnish your reputation, Dean, maybe you should seriously consider making Lily repay the money she owes me. Or
my cousin shot me a defiant glance, her eyes like poisoned daggers, enunciating each word.
Immediate expulsion.
Several students had gathered outside the office, including some from my study group. Their complex gazes fell upon me like a dense forest of steel needles piercing my skin. But at 19, I had no one to rely on. Reality left no room for weakness. Suppressing my panic, I calmly walked up to Dean Thompson's desk and picked up the top promissory note. I smiled at the dean.
This contract is a fake.
My cousin's face darkened.
What garbage are you spouting now?
I looked up at her, my tone cold and sarcastic.
This is dated January of last year. At that time, I was 17, a minor. I lacked the legal capacity to sign a binding contract. Your forged document is so meticulously crafted, practically a masterpiece of legal formatting. Would a real lawyer really make such a basic, voidable mistake?
My cousin's triumphant smirk froze on her lips. Unable to counter, she could only glare at me. I picked up the property deed transfer again.
As for this so-called collateral agreement, the condo I own in the Loop is a second-hand unit that only transferred ownership 3 months ago. The previous owner was a retired corporate executive who has no connection whatsoever to anyone in my cousin's family. A simple title search with the county clerk would reveal who is committing fraud.
I then pulled out my phone and selectively played a few of the unhinged voicemails my mother had left me over the past few weeks, turning the volume up for the dean to hear. Even just a few minutes of audio were enough to expose my mother's toxic, twisted logic of siding with her sister's family over her own husband's survival. Dean Thompson looked at my mother, who was now crying so hard she was hyperventilating, a hint of sharp scrutiny in his eyes. The promissory note was legally void to begin with, unable to withstand a 10-second review. Besides, my mother's confidence was already crumbling. Under his stern gaze, her sobs gradually subsided, her eyes darting away guiltily. Dean Thompson, an academic veteran who had nearly been appointed university provost last year, was no pushover. Seeing my mother's flustered state, what else could he possibly fail to grasp? He snorted derisively, muttering under his breath.
You really do see all kinds of dysfunctional families in higher ed.
I glanced at the growing crowd of students in the hallway, then shot a cold look at my cousin and aunt. Raising my voice, I declared,
"Remember what Detective Mitchell told you back at the precinct? I'll remind you right now. If you continue to harass me with false allegations of theft, You'll be arrested for filing false reports. I slid my phone across the desk toward my cousin with deliberate openness. Perhaps you should also know that forging legal documents and attempting to extort a university student is a felony. Would you like the Chicago PD to educate you on wire fraud and forgery?
My cousin's face instantly drained of color. Her chest heaved violently as she clutched my aunt's arm tightly, all traces of her earlier arrogance evaporating. My aunt, unsure how to counter the threat of actual prison time, could only feel that I was no longer the obedient doormat she once knew. I was now utterly ruthless. She tugged at my mother's cardigan, pleading urgently.
Brenda, say something.
My mother opened her mouth to speak, but Dean Thompson's icy glare silenced her. The dean stood up, sweeping the forged evidence from his desk back into my aunt's hands. His tone was absolute ice.
This institution exists to educate and protect its students. We will never discipline a student based solely on the unverified hysterical demands of estranged relatives. As for the alleged embezzlement, gambling, and debts, I expect mature adults to resolve such matters in a civil courtroom, not by causing a scene in my administration building that disrupts campus life.
He paused for a moment before turning his piercing gaze to my cousin.
You implied that I should be afraid of Miss Carter damaging the university's reputation and donor rates. Let me be crystal clear, I am not. If you want to know where due process and integrity actually matter, it is right here on this campus. A university's reputation is never bought through blackmail. If you persist in this harassment or attempt to peddle fabricated lies to the local media to smear this student and this institution, campus security will escort you out, and I will personally contact the authorities to press trespassing and extortion charges.
As we stepped out of the dean's office, my cousin and aunt looked like deflated balloons, their earlier bravado completely shattered. Yet, they still spat venom at me in the hallway.
Lily, don't think these ivory tower snobs protecting you means you've won. Mark my words, karma is real. That $8 million, save it for your funeral expenses.
I turned back and offered my cousin a bright, gentle smile.
Fine. I'll be waiting.
After legally distancing myself from those toxic relatives, life in Chicago with my dad became peaceful and fulfilling. I aced every final exam, Sarah's family farm weathered the agricultural crisis smoothly, and everything was moving in a positive direction. During winter break, I flew to Los Angeles with my hired corporate attorney and formally signed the equity investment contract with Sarah's parents for the organic avocado plantation. On our return flight, it was Christmas Eve, and a massive blizzard had hit Chicago. Wearing heavy snow boots, I trudged across the airport's snow-covered pickup lane while texting my dad. Suddenly, a snow-laden branch snapped from a tall pine tree beside the terminal road. It crashed down with a heavy thud, landing squarely on my hood. Ice and snow stung my eyes, forcing them shut. I rubbed my face, my eyelids twitching slightly. A vague sense of dread crept into my chest. I quickly wiped my phone screen. The text thread showed a photo my dad had sent 2 hours earlier. It was a picture of a steaming pot of homemade chicken noodle soup on the stove. It was accompanied by a message.
Freezing out there today. Made your favorite soup. I'll keep it warm until you get home.
My frozen fingers tapped the screen, replying.
Sounds perfect. Waiting for my Uber now.
I silently breathed a sigh of relief. Just as I lifted my suitcase to hail a passing cab, an SUV streaked toward me from the opposite lane, its high beams blindingly bright through the falling snow. Through the windshield, I recognized my mother's face behind the wheel. She accelerated toward the curb without warning, engine roaring, intent on running me down. I spun around, but the ice was too slick. Just as I thought certain death was upon me, a dark figure burst from the terminal doors and shoved me hard off the curb. Crash, the world froze. Snow fell in eerie silence. My reality instantly slowed like a film in reverse. I watched my father get thrown 10 feet through the air before crashing heavily onto the asphalt beside me. Bright red stained the pristine white snow. My father gasped for air, blood bubbling from his lips. The gray hair at his temples was soaked. I couldn't tell if it was melting snow or blood. I scrambled forward on my knees, clutching his coat and screaming.
Dad, Daddy.
His body was so terrifyingly cold. I ripped off my winter coat to cover him while fumbling for my phone with shaking, bloody hands to dial 911. It felt like an eternity. Paramedics rushed out of the ambulance, securing my father on a backboard and loading him into the rig. From the ER trauma bay to the operating room, from the OR to the surgical ICU. It took a full 46 hours before the trauma surgeon declared my father out of the woods. The moment the doctor said he would survive, my legs gave way. I collapsed to the sterile linoleum floor, curling into a ball as I sobbed uncontrollably. Before entering the police precinct to give my statement, my father's weak, raspy voice echoed in my ears from his hospital bed.
Lily, I am sorry for burdening you again. Your mother texted me saying she'd hit rock bottom, that she was going to jump off the Navy pier. She begged to see me one last time. As her husband, I thought I could talk her down. I never imagined she and your Aunt Susan would jump me, knock me out, and steal my phone to read your flight info. Through the haze, I faintly heard them planning in the front seat. They said if your mother hit you with the car and paralyzed you, you'd need full-time care. They could apply for legal guardianship, control your medical proxy, and drain your bank accounts.
Bullshit. The speed that SUV was going was meant to kill me on impact. My dad was still too kind, holding on to naive Midwestern hopes for the woman he married. It was the same detective, Detective Mitchell, sitting across from me in the interview room, his expression infinitely more grim than last time. Only the officer typing the transcript had changed to a younger rookie. Through the two-way glass, I watched my mother's interrogation. Her eyes were tear-filled, brimming with victimhood.
Detective, I swear to God, I didn't intend to kill her. I only wanted to clip her leg just enough so she'd need my care and finally listen to me about returning the money to her aunt. The brakes failed. I slammed my foot on the pedal, but it wouldn't stop. Lily is my own flesh and blood. What mother wouldn't want her child to be safe? I just wanted her to need me again. I am innocent.
The detective watched her performative sobbing, his expression visibly hardening from professional detachment to pure disgust.
So you admit you conspired from the start to intentionally commit vehicular assault against your daughter with the explicit intent of seizing her financial assets. Correct.
My mother paled, realizing she'd talked herself into a corner.
My sister told me to just give her a gentle tap not to take her life. She said if Lily was temporarily in a wheelchair, she wouldn't be able to disobey me anymore. I never expected the brakes to give out on the ice.
The detective's expression turned lethal, and he slammed his hand on the metal table, his voice booming.
Cut the crap, the crime scene text pulled the SUV. The brake lines were intentionally slashed. This wasn't an accident. This is premeditated attempted murder.
My mother's eyes widened in horror, her face instantly draining of color as she froze in absolute shock. After a long, agonizing moment, she struggled to turn her head toward the open door of the adjacent holding cell, staring at her sister, her face a mask of madness and cold indifference. She asked, her voice cracking with disbelief.
Susan, you wanted to kill my daughter.
My aunt sneered back.
You are the one who ran her over. Only she didn't die.
Knowing she was facing a massive federal sentence this time, Aunt Susan dropped all pretense of sisterly love. Her eyes bulged menacingly as she screamed at my mother like a cornered animal.
Who told you to be so damn stupid? You couldn't even raise a daughter properly. She is sitting on Chloe's $10 million, living in a luxury penthouse while leaving us to rot in Ohio. You failed to teach her respect, so don't blame me for wanting to rid the world of that greedy little bitch.
Finishing her rant, she locked eyes with me through the glass, her face burning with psychotic hatred.
You are lucky that pathetic old man threw himself in front of the bumper. But don't get too comfortable. A cold-blooded sociopath like you will get what is coming to her.
Detective Mitchell slammed the door shut, cutting off her screaming. He turned back to my aunt.
Any other accomplices?
Without hesitation, Aunt Susan declared firmly.
Number, it was just me and my idiot sister, Brenda.
My mother, stunned that the sister she'd worshipped and sacrificed for her entire life would throw her under the bus so ruthlessly, trembled with rage. Tears streamed down her face in thick rivers. She didn't believe a word my aunt said and opened her mouth to argue, but after a moment's realization of her own ruined life, she simply lowered her head in defeat. From start to finish, my cousin Chloe never showed her face or left a paper trail in this conspiracy. My aunt, though seemingly unhinged, knew how to protect her daughter from accessory charges. But my mother and aunt both signed full confessions. With airtight forensic evidence and clear motives established by the district attorney, the trial was swift. The mastermind, Susan Davis, was convicted of attempted murder in the first degree, conspiracy to commit murder, and felony extortion. Sentenced consecutively, she received 25 years in a maximum security state penitentiary without the possibility of parole. The driver, Brenda Carter, was convicted of aggravated vehicular assault and conspiracy. She accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Before the bailiffs escorted her out of the courtroom, my mother called out to me from the defense table, her eyes swollen and red. She hesitated for a moment, the chains on her wrists clinking before nervously asking,
Do you hate me?
I looked at the cold, heavy handcuffs gleaming under the fluorescent lights, feeling not a single ripple of emotion in my chest. Hate! Even holding on to hate requires energy I wasn't willing to waste on her. I replied coldly.
No, I don't hate you. But when you get out, I never want you to contact me or Dad ever again.
My mother, her thin body drowning in an Orange County jail jumpsuit, froze instantly as if struck by lightning. Staring at my emotionless posture, her face drained of whatever life she had left. After a long, suffocating silence, her knees buckled. She collapsed against the defense table and began sobbing with a guttural, wretched sound. She kept slapping her cuffed hands against the wood, repeating,
I am sorry. I am so sorry.
Sadly, the heavy courtroom doors swung shut, cutting off her repentance forever. 6 years later, I returned to Oak Haven, Ohio for the first time. I wore a tailored designer trench coat, carried a Birkin bag worth more than most houses in the zip code, and sported sunglasses that cost more than a used car. Locals at the diner glanced at me, recognizing my face yet hesitating to approach the wealthy stranger I'd become. No one in this dying Rust Belt town could have imagined that the teenage girl who once couldn't afford a cheap hardshell suitcase had become a multi-millionaire agricultural investor, controlling vast swaths of California's organic produce market. The wealthy Sarah I had once invented as a cover story had become the real-life version of me. 3 years earlier, my mother had been released from prison on early parole due to prison overcrowding. My father had finalized their divorce during her second year behind bars. She returned to town unchanged, utterly incapable of accepting the reality that she had destroyed her own family. Terrified of being ostracized by the local church gossips, she became even more desperate to play the local martyr, constantly meddling in everyone's business. Like a self-appointed neighborhood watch captain, she ran errands for this family today and babysat for that one tomorrow, as if her entire self-worth depended on hearing people praise her Christian charity. Little did she know the whole town just mocked her behind her back as a desperate ex-con. But the wheel of karma always realigns with destiny. One winter evening, while escorting Billy, the intellectually disabled neighbor, back to his group home, she was struck by a drunk driver. The accident left her spine shattered, permanently confining her to a wheelchair. Standing by the curb, waiting for my private car, I spotted a vaguely familiar figure shuffling down the sidewalk. My thoughts drifted far away with the approaching exhaust fumes, carried back into distant memories. That year, my aunt and mother were sent to federal prison. Neither of them had implicated Chloe to the police, yet she, terrified of being indicted for conspiracy, packed a bag and fled the state for 6 months. When she finally crept back into town, she found the locks changed and a stranger living in her house. A younger woman was wearing the clothes Chloe had left behind, sleeping in her marital bed, holding her husband Jared's hand and visibly pregnant with the child that should have been hers. Seeing Chloe suddenly standing on the porch, Jared offered no apologies. He simply put a protective arm around his pregnant girlfriend and handed Chloe a manila envelope.
Chloe, sign the divorce papers. I am done.
Chloe despised me, but she knew I had the money and lawyers to crush her, so she dared not provoke me again. Instead, she redirected all her psychotic rage onto my disabled mother. She moved into my mother's cramped, subsidized apartment. One day, she'd pawn my mother's television. The next, she'd dump the Meals on Wheels delivery straight into the trash. As the years dragged on, she grew increasingly sadistic, sometimes locking my paralyzed mother in her bedroom without food or water for days on end. Eventually, my mother's survival instinct kicked in. When Chloe came in screaming to torment her again, my mother managed to slip a handful of crushed sleeping pills into Chloe's coffee. Once Chloe passed out, my mother dragged herself to the landline and dialed the number for Billy's desperate, overwhelmed parents next door. Now, my mother's health has deteriorated to the point where she can no longer survive outside a medical facility. The state assigned me as her next of kin, forcing a legal mandate. I returned to Ohio for one purpose: to sign the paperwork committing her to a state-run assisted living facility as a ward of the state. After finalizing the transfer at the nursing home, I returned to the Greyhound bus stop where I'd stood all those years ago. A vibrant young college student with a bright pink suitcase pulled up beside me, waiting quietly for the westbound bus. Soon, the silver coach pulled to the curb to pick her up. This time, no bitter relatives were there to rip open her luggage and tear down her dreams before she embarked on her journey. As the bleak Ohio sun dipped below the horizon, that familiar broken figure approached me on the sidewalk. Her hair was a matted rat's nest, her thrift store coat stained with grease, her gaze completely unfocused and vacant. Yet she held the hands of 3 toddlers equally dirty and shivering, guarding them with a manic, solemn intensity. She stopped every pedestrian she passed, asking in a cracked voice,
Excuse me, have you seen my lottery ticket? I won $10 million.
When people shoved past her with looks of disgust, she didn't react, just blankly moved to the next person. When she finally reached me, she stopped. She furrowed her brow, squinting through the fading light, as if trying to process whether we'd met in another life. After a long, agonizing pause, the gears in her shattered mind shifted, and she changed her question.
Have you seen my husband, Jared? He is a manager at the plant, and he loves me so much. We had just bought a house when I won the $10 million, but someone stole my ticket. He told me to stop acting crazy, to stop dreaming about being rich.
She nodded to herself,
Where is he?
rocking slightly, murmuring to the wind.
Maybe I really am crazy. Why else would the neighbors call my new husband Billy the Fool?
Watching my cousin tightly gripping the hands of her 3 children, a brief pang of heavy emotion settled in my chest. But then I took a deep breath, the crisp winter air clearing my mind. I reminded myself, this is her karma, not mine. Oakhaven, Ohio. I will definitely never be coming back. I opened the heavy door of my Maserati and pressed the ignition button, the engine roaring to life. I answered my cousin's earlier question, my words lost to the freezing wind.
Who hasn't lived through a nightmare like this?